Hello, and welcome to OnPoint, a podcast by Oak Street Funding, where we sit down with industry leaders to hear their stories and share their insights. I'm your host today, Scott Stars, VP of Strategic Markets at Oak Street Funding. Today, I'm joined by Steve DeLuca, founder and owner of the DeLuca Agency. Steve brings more than 30 years of diverse insurance industry leadership experience. Steve started his insurance career in the financial sector with MetLife, Allstate, and Crump Life Insurance Services. He then went on to own a successful multi-line agency with Nationwide Insurance in Ann Arbor, Michigan for over 10 years before moving to Colorado. Steve has successfully owned and operated independent insurance brokerages in Colorado, Utah, and Maryland under the DeLuca and Denver Insurance Brokerage, Inc. names. Steve, thank you for joining me today and sharing your story of growth with our audience.
Yep. Thank you for the kind introduction, Scott.
No problem. I was looking back at our notes before our conversation, and I think we started talking in late 2012. If you believe it or not, all the way back then. So, a little over 12 years, we've had various conversations about growth and acquisitions and all of that. So I thought it'd be an interesting story to tell. And so we'll get right into it.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about yourself and your path to where you are today.
Well, insurance is really the only thing I've ever done. So when I was a sophomore in college, I was able to get an internship with MetLife and did that for about 2 years. And at that point, I went to school to actually be a journalist and realized that there wasn't a lot of opportunity for me getting out of college in the journalism field. And so my uncle, who managed the firm for MetLife, offered me the job. And so I got licensed, my life insurance license, my Series 6, and went on to try to sell life insurance and do financial planning. And so I did that for a couple years. It was very difficult, I think, just because of my age. Most 22-year-olds don't have a need for financial planning, and anybody else that's a little bit older would see my lack of experience. So I was discouraged and decided to go back to school to get a master's degree. So I spent a year at Michigan State University, and I was at the gym one day, and I had been working out with this guy for 6 months, and we never knew that we were both in the insurance industry. And so he was actually looking for a life specialist at Allstate. And, one thing led to another. We started talking business, and a couple months later, he hired me. And this was probably a pivotal opportunity that I had in my career, because I didn't have to really prospect for new business. I would represent the agencies in his region, and there were about 20 Allstate agencies that were feeding me leads. And so at that point of my life, I was hungry to make money, and so I took advantage of it. I worked 7 days a week, made as many appointments as I could, and my first year at Allstate, I made the chairman's conference. And so didn't have any debt. I saved most of the money that I made for the 2 years that I was there, and that's how I was able to start the Nationwide agency. I'd always wanted to be self-employed. I got to see how the property and casualty agents could work 9 to 5, and I was working late nights and weekends and everything. So I felt that would have been that was a better direction for me to go. So, I was offered a franchise of Nationwide in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and just that's where I got the start in the PNC agency. And so from there, I spent 13 years in that agency. I went through the finance community agency process with Nationwide, which was very difficult. But we did that for 5 years, and then they transferred the ownership of the agency over to me. I never really wanted to be in Ann Arbor my entire life, and so that's kind of how I ended up in Colorado and where you and I met. And I turned the agency back into Nationwide, and then utilized the money that I received to move to Colorado and start a new agency. And so that's really how I got to where I'm at today. The steps that took place and the experience that I had. When I got to Colorado, I got my Nationwide contract back, but it was more of a hybrid nature, and so we were more of an independent agency at that time. And then I think it was 2000, I can't remember, the 15 or 2018 when Nationwide spun us off, and we all became independent agents at that point. So that's the path that I took to get where I'm at today.
So when you were going through that transition from Michigan to Colorado, or even starting your agency in Michigan, early on in your career, was there anything there that you would have done different?
Well, I was thinking about that. I think, I had to go through many struggles in my career, and so I think that all of it actually lent itself to where we are today, because I had to, work through adversity, jump through hoops, and just do what I had to do to be successful. And so, if I look back at it, I don't know that I would really change anything, because I think it all was there for me to grow from. So, would I want to do something different? Yeah, I've had dreams my entire career of doing something different, but I became good at this career, and so I just tried to do the best that I can. And I guess I really wouldn't change anything at this point.
And I know once you are on the independent side, and there's a lot of different carriers that and different situations where there are some life goals, starting with MetLife and doing the life with Allstate. You feel like that gave you a head start in achieving some of those goals that some of the carriers want you to hit?
Oh yeah, for sure. In the life insurance industry, you're actually going out and selling a product. And in the property and casualty world, you're marketing a product and trying to figure out how to get your phone to ring. But I feel that the sales skills, all the sales training, the meeting people, several meetings a week, going through the process of selling life insurance completely lends itself to making you a better property and casualty agent. And the goals that I was a straight commission life insurance salesman, so I knew what I had to sell in order to make a certain amount of income, and that was all of that prepared me for the property and casualty world, and the quotas that every carrier puts on the agency to meet every year.
And that's probably a good segue actually to the next question. You had mentioned trying to get your phone to ring, right? And marketing a product. So how do you differentiate yourself in the market?
The way we differentiated ourselves here in Colorado is that we, from my experience in the first agency, I was more of a generalist. and we would sell everything that, that we could. We didn't really specialize in anything. We sold home, auto, commercial, life insurance, did some financial planning also. But in this agency, I uh, learned quite a bit more. Actually, in between agencies, that's when I worked for Crump Life Insurance, and I represented independent agents. So I got to see a good variety of agencies and how they worked. And so when I started the new agency in Colorado, I specifically only wanted to go after the high net worth markets. I wanted to be in the private client space for several reasons. But, for one, there's less service work. The homes that we sell insurance to or put insurance on normally have, tile roofs, brick, stone, or stucco siding. So out here in Colorado, they're less susceptible to hail loss. And so, and they're high premiums. And so we, throughout our journey here, have been able to get contracted with all the private client carriers, so that we really never lose business when we're quoting, because there's only a handful of them in the state, and we have them all. And so we're one of the few agencies that can do that. And everybody in my office has been thoroughly trained. And that's kind of what our agency's known for, is working with high net worth customers.
So as you think about, going out to Colorado, starting your agency and going through that growth journey, how did you initially decide that you wanted to use capital?
Well, so early on, I was given the opportunity to purchase books of business from Nationwide. They sold off their On Your Side Center business. And so we were doing well. And so, we were given the opportunity to buy the books of business. And so seeing what that does, the instant revenue growth and the instant inorganic growth of the agency was tremendous. I mean, it helped us out a lot. It helped us cross sell. It helped us multi-line. And I think I can't remember the name of your colleague, but she had come to one of our CEO meetings. And some of the members of my group were mentors to me, and they had already been in the mergers and acquisitions side of things. And so watching what they did, watching the tremendous growth that they had every year, along with meeting your colleague, really kind of got me motivated to reach out to Oak Street. And then you and I hit it off because she worked with the East Coast, you were working with our market. And, that's where it really all started, because I never had to go out and find capital, because Nationwide would do the financing for us and take the payment out of the revenue that's generated off the book. So, when you and I met and I got approved, that's when I started, combing the internet, looking at agency equity, all the different business websites, to try to find different agencies to purchase. So, I think the first one we did, it was right before COVID. Brought in several $1 million of premium to the agency.
Mm-hmm.
And that, seeing that instant growth was very motivating. And then from there, we did several more.
I know when you were talking about looking at all the different sites and all of that, and I know early on, you were sending me a lot of opportunities, right, that you wanted to look at. What were you looking for in a fit with an agent, somebody to acquire? What was maybe a couple things you were looking at?
Well, we were looking at smaller agencies, nothing too big that could change the culture of our current business. So something that was, just not too difficult to roll into our book of business, at the time. So, we were looking for agencies anywhere from $200,000 to $400,000 of revenue. And at that time, I was actually looking for more for nationwide books of business because, Nationwide had different growth measures in place for us to bonus. And so, I wanted to get to, $10 million a nationwide premium. And that was my goal at the time. And that was right before we actually got spun off to be a total independent agency. And then as time went on, I started looking, as we diversified our carrier list, I was looking for independents that could easily roll into all our different carriers.
Yeah, so good synergies, right? I mean, I know that.
Yeah, low loss ratios, profitable, and book rolls are always the easiest thing to do.
Yeah. So, what advice do you have for other agencies who want to have successful growth?
I would say you have to have a combination of organic and inorganic growth. And in today's market, it's very hard to grow organically. I mean, I've never seen the business in this. It's the worst time in the insurance industry that I've ever experienced. So if you're going to grow, you've got to get into mergers and acquisitions. You got to have a mentor, someone that you can talk to, someone that can bring you through the process because it can be very stressful. You got to have a good attorney that's in mergers and acquisitions. You got to have your purchase agreements and all your forms in place. You got to have a good banker. So, all of that is needed to get into the mergers and acquisition space and to grow your agency. To grow your agency in double digits. I think that right now you could grow your agency, maybe 10% just based off rate increases. But, if you want to grow your PIF count, you gotta buy something right now.
Yeah, you talk about the time of the agencies right now, it being tough. Yeah, the getting something new on the books, but there's that organic growth, right, through premiums just going up. So, yeah, I get it.
Another thing is when you bring on new policies, I mean, you have all of the new policies that haven't been multi-lined or cross-sold too, and that's organic growth on top of the merger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. Those cross-sells are key. All right, Steve, so when you started the DeLuca agency, what was your long-term goal, and do you feel like you've achieved it?
So, I've started the DeLuca agency actually twice. My first agency in Michigan, the goals were pretty much put in place for us by Nationwide, and we had to meet specific growth goals weekly, quarterly, semi-annually, annually, and then ultimately at the end of the 5-year contract, your agency had to be a specific size. So the goals in that agency were pretty much set for us. When I moved to Colorado and actually self-funded this agency and started all over from scratch, my goals were quite a bit different. And so I had to reach specific premium volumes for some of the carriers and specifically Nationwide, they had bonuses in place so that for every X number of dollars that we brought in, we would get a bonus. And that helped me reinvest the money into the agency and grow it. So that happened for about 2 years. And then at that point, my goal was to, get the agency up to $1 million of revenue. And I was able to do that relatively quickly with, the Nationwide acquisitions that were offered to me. Once that was over, my goal was to then, try to reach 2 million in revenue. And that's where Oak Street really stepped in. It took me maybe a third of the time to grow from 1 million to 2 million in revenue through acquisition. And my goals are, I continue to just want to grow the agency by $1 million of revenue at a time. And so, the first 1 million of revenue was very difficult to get to, took the longest amount of time. And then every million after that is gotten a little bit easier.
So when thinking back to when we first started working together, what made you decide to use Oak Street Funding as your financial partner for your loan? And had you looked other places and, give a little insight there?
I did look around, but to your credit, I mean, you and I, our personalities jibed, and I trusted what you were telling me, and you were there to answer questions. And so, with that support, it made my decision to go with Oak Street a lot easier. And so, you and I, been talking to each other for like 13 years.
Yeah.
And so you just became part of my team. And that's the most important thing.
So, Steve, is there an example you can provide where you felt the OSF team went above and beyond to deliver for your organization?
Yeah, I would say that, obviously going through the underwriting process to get approved to be able to purchase agencies and get approved for the amount of capital that, the bank's willing to lend you is quite an extensive process. I would equate it similar to buying a house, or maybe even more difficult. And so what I really appreciated was that, when I found a smaller book roll, Oak Street wouldn't make me go through that entire process again. And, I could just tuck in, the smaller purchases into an existing loan. And it kind of gave me the confidence and the ability to go out and find smaller books and not have to worry about getting approved for a loan, prior to making an offer. So that was really helpful. And I think that was going above and beyond to help me grow.
All right. Well, thanks, Steve, for joining us for OnPoint today. We greatly appreciate your time. It's been a pleasure working with you, and thanks again.
Yep. Thank you.